Today we'll be discussing the Baseus 30 Max, and why I think that some of the reviews got slightly carried away with hyping these up. So even though this has been sent to me, I always tell every single supplier that I will put up the review regardless of whatever I think about them, so you're sending them at your own risk. I'm a sucker for good headphones, and these met my expectations at the price point they're being sold at. I know there were a few opinions out there saying that these can match up with likes of Bose or Sony. They cannot, for many different reasons that I'll discuss in a second. But at the same time, at $70, they're much better than I expected. In all fairness, I think there's this really weird misconception from creators is that if you receive a product, you have to be all over the place with praising whatever you got. And I think that's damaging not only to the channels on YouTube, but also to the brand itself. Because if you're expecting to get something of a Bose quality and you buy these, you'll be both disappointed with the person who recommended them, but also with the company. And to be fair, they never advertise these as a replacement for top-end headphones. This is Baseus' first attempt on closed cans, and they did a really good job in that market segment. But you can't really compare them to the high end. Let's start with the build quality, and I think they've done a pretty good job. These are fairly stylish. There's a little bit of chrome going on, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it looks alright. The plastic quality on these is decent, however, after a little bit of traveling, they do attract scratches. It doesn't really bother me because this is how my Bose QC Comforts look like after years of abuse. Dented everywhere, scratched everywhere, love them to bits. The headband on Baseus has the same kind of a memory foam as you get around the ear cups, which is pretty adequate. It's maybe not as soft and comfortable as Bose, but to be fair, at this price point, I was expecting way less, so well done on that front. The top of the headband is made out of alloy, which is pretty flexible, and the clamping force on these is slightly more than I'm used to in Bose products. Not that it's uncomfortable, but I wouldn't say it is as comfortable as Quiet Comforts. In terms of overall shape and design, these are a little bit more bulky than Bose, and this is the reason why I never bought Sonys for myself, because I've got fairly small head, and any big headset looks comical on it, and these are no exception. But for most people, it doesn't really matter, because I've seen people with tiny little heads having massive headphones on, so it might be just me. The headband adjustment feels very solid, and it certainly feels like it will remain in place. It's not too easy to move it around, nor it's too hard. It's kind of a sweet spot. These fold away for transport as well, maybe not as small as Bose, but it kind of does the job. The only downside here is that you don't get any pouches with it or boxes, but to be fair, I've never ever used any of those enclosures. I only check them in my backpack, because space is precious and you really don't want to add to the bulk. So I don't really care about lacking of a separate purse for headphones alone. The button layout on these is pretty simple. You've got a power button on one side, your skipping track and volume up and down are physical buttons as opposed to Bose, and recent trend in making everything touch-based, which I still prefer physical buttons, so well done here. And then you've got ANC button on the other side. On the bottom of the headset, you've got 3.5mm jack port and USB-C. USB-C here can only be used for charging. And speaking of charging, within 10 minutes, you gain about 14 hours of playback, which is awesome because I always forget to charge my headphones up, so it is a nice feature. Overall, these are rated to withstand about 65 hours of music at medium volume with the ANC off. With ANC on, you get about 50 hours, and there's a catch here, which I'll discuss in a second. So, build quality, pretty decent. Charging, battery life, pretty much on point. For $70, you can't really complain there. Diving into sound quality and the ANC, which is your active noise cancellation, sound quality is acceptable, and not with the built-in preset modes. Thankfully, you've got equalizer on the app, which you have to install straight away as soon as you get these, because the flat profile on these is pretty below mediocre. Once you customize the EQ, and this is the customization and profile I'm using because the built-in ones didn't really work for me, is making this headset more than usable. The sound quality is actually pretty decent for the price. Where it kind of feels a little bit off is in the higher pitch vocals. They feel very disturbed and a bit cranky, and I didn't manage to fix that with any of the EQ settings. With the 50mm drivers in these, I was kind of expecting a little bit more, and I'm pretty sure these are capable of much better sound, with slightly better sound engineers maybe working on these, and I'm kind of hoping this will be improved through a firmware update, because these are way more capable and then they sound. Now, I need to put ANC into the mix of the sound quality here because it's super relevant. What I found is that this equalizer only really works if the ANC is set to max. Now, in the app, you can set it between the presets of outdoor, indoor, whatever, or you can go custom, just go custom, set it to 10, because otherwise the music sounds a little bit weird and a little bit distorted, and you're losing quite a bit of detail in it. So with the ANC fully on, these sound really good. With ANC off, not so much. In terms of the ANC itself and how effective this is, if we put, say, Bose, Apple, and Sony at 10 out of 10 mark, these would be about 6 out of 10. So they can block out most of the low frequency sounds, so stuff like your fans, your fridge running, or even the jet engines when you're flying somewhere are significantly lowered. Things like people talking or TV somewhere in the background is not going to get blocked out, which is pretty decent, again, for the price you're paying. But don't expect the same ANC quality as you would get from Sony or Bose. These also have a bass boost, which makes them sound much better, actually, because typically when you switch that on some of the headsets, your head is about to explode. With these ones, not so much. Without the bass boost, they feel a little bit flat, but once you switch that on, they just sound much better. Now, these have low latency mode, but to engage that, you do have to go in an app. So again, definitely download that thing as soon as you get a headset. And it works pretty well. Netflix, YouTube, you name it. I had zero issues with the iPhone 16 Pro or my MacBook. You can watch movies and you can't really tell there's any delay between the movement of the lips and what you're hearing in the cans. Now, the head tracking. I'm not a big fan of head tracking on any headset. And even if it's Apple, I just don't like the fact that the sound's being stuck somewhere in place when you move your head around. That's basically the idea. You've got your source of the sound here. You move your head around and the sound stays fixed in one place. What it does for me, it's making me nauseous. I just don't like the experience. And with this headset, it kind of feels a little bit more random than what I'm used to, say, on the Apple AirPods. I don't know, it might be just me. I'm just not a big fan of that. When it is set to fixed, I can't really tell massive difference between it being off and fixed. I mean, the sound quality might be a little bit tiny better, might be a little bit richer when it is on, but it's not like a massive feature that I would be basing my purchase decision on. So that's $70 price range. I mean, these are very adequate, they are comfy, the sound quality is pretty good, and the ANC is more than acceptable. I will leave some links below to best offers on these, whether it's on Amazon or Baseus directly. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, have an awesome day and I'll see you in the next one.